The next game in our Leningrad Dutch defense journey was played in St. Petersburg Open, another very strong tournament, in 1994 between Lugovoy Alexei and Agrest Evgeny. d4, f5, g3, knight f6, bishop g2, g6, knight f3, bishop g7, castle, castle, c4 and d6, and this is once more is the position we want to reach in our Leningrad Dutch, right? So knight c3, c6 is the move we use to learn, b3, queen a5 right away, attacking the knight c3. Bishop e2 defends, e5 is the push that we generally try to achieve in the Leningrad Dutch. In this game it was played queen d2, but obviously we want to know what happens if you play this, right? Because that's logical, come on. D takes e5, e4 is what you play, or what white would play to stop that pawn from advancing, because in the previous game we have seen when it goes here what a pain is. And after d4 you reach the other push that generally black wants to have in nearly every Dutch, because f4 is what you like to have, okay? Because you try to dismount the protective shield in front of the enemy king, right? Okay, after this white can play queen d6, attacking here, right? But in this case you need to answer immediately to this kind of invasion with knight e8, queen d3 and knight a6. As we can see, things for black are kind of good at this moment. e3, now obviously there is a try to rebuke that or kick out that queen, right? Knight c5, very interesting move, right? Because he doesn't care about this, because he's going to take this. So white plays queen c2, and then of course at that point black has to return back, otherwise there is a fork, and that fork will work. And white plays this in any case because he's gaining space on the queen side. In this case black is attacking or keeping pressure on the king side, but white is going there, right? Knight e6, queen b3. Now you can see the problem of this diagonal for black, okay? Knight d6, c5, knight f7, rook a d1, and obviously you need to play this king h8, because now all your pieces are in the right squares for the attack on the king side. But this is a problem, so you have to move that king somewhere else. Now let's return to the game. Okay, so this was the position. We have seen d takes e5, but in the game white played queen d2. Obviously you must be careful on one thing here. You cannot really play this because your queen is not protected, is hanging. So white would play this. So be careful of the push, the pawn push, and check the typical forcing moves, okay? So black obviously at this point had to return back because this was hanging, no? And white took on e5. Okay. Another possible move was d5, and this is something that is to consider, right? You need to consider this move because pawn push and pawn takes, especially in the middle game, must be calculated, and so you don't want to calculate this when you are in the game. You want to prepare yourself for that, right? But as you can see, it's not question of memorization, it's question of understanding what we are doing and why. So let's see what happens if he plays d5 instead of taking, right? How do you continue here? First of all, you don't want to continue with this because this would give the outpost to white. We are not going to do that. We need obviously to develop our pieces, try to take control of that. You see the c7 square, it's kind of important, right? So when he takes, you take back, he attack you again, because at this point, yes, you are kind of having to deal with that. And now you play e4. Let's see, knight h4, rook d8, f3, e takes f3, bishop takes f3, and bishop e6. So this is a position we would reach. Now, what's your evaluation of the position is quite important, right? Because how you evaluate the position is the best way. Notice that why h4 is better than g5, because g5 he would have been kicked away. h4 he can do this, 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 this. You understand? It's strangely, the knight on the rim is dim, but he has these maneuvers that he can play. And so that's what we care about. We must consider both sides. Now let's return back to the game, because luckily this game is a kind of miniature, so maybe you will like it. Okay, so we have seen what happens if white plays d5. Now we see what happens with the move that he played in the game, which is d takes e5. d takes e5, e4, because they don't like to have this knight kick, knight s6, e takes f5, and bishop takes f5. Probably g takes f5, not so good because there was knight h4. Probably. Okay. Now, what do you do as white? In the game he played queen e2, probably with the idea of blocking this, but maybe this was better. Now let's see, queen e2, how the game continue. Obviously you need to protect this, because it's attacked, right? Twice, and only one defended. So rook f e8. h3, it's trying to avoid the knight g4, kick away that bishop, knight b4, rook a d1, bishop d3. Boom! Amazing. Amazing move. Yeah, this maybe wasn't so easy to find. This is something we should have stopped the video and ask, hey, what would you play in this position? Well, you say, why? Because, obviously, you can see it right away. Rook takes d3, knight takes d3, queen takes d3, and thanks to this, e4. Right? So that's the problem. That's the problem. He played queen e c2, and then I continue with this. I think many of you will want to know what happens if you play this, right? What happens if you play this? Obviously you don't take with a rook because it could take with a bishop, right? So you take with this. And so here we have it, right? We have a possibility to check how much each side gained or lost. So as you can see, the black has an advantage of at least one pawn, right? So that's why you don't take. And you go back, okay? So he went back, he takes f3, bishop takes f3, rook a d8, king g2, he defends this and keep control of the diagonals, queen d7, b4, queen f5, queen a4, rook d3, bishop d1, knight e4, and here it seems our friend played g4, and after queen e5 the game was over. Yeah, it's a great position. Can you see why the game is over? All these pieces that are going to crash down. It's a very dominant position for black, but obviously here it's a question of material. And this game was just 25 moves long. I hope you enjoyed it.